Okay, and let's see here. 2 days? It will be a month since I've had surgery, bottom surgery, gender confirming surgery. And what's happened since my last video? Well, I've seen the doctor, which I seen the doctor, the one that works with plastic surgery, the one that does everything with the dilation. And I seen the pelvic floor specialist. And there was a few things that is good. Especially when I let them know I was already on the blue dilator. They're saying that's good because they're saying usually it's a month in between going up a dilator, which is good. For some people that's too long, and they just want me to move up in dilators as I'm comfortable doing so. And yeah, and she's wanting me to start taking baths. She wanted me to start baths with Epsom salt to help heal everything down there. So I've been doing that, and now I have less stitches, but I still have a bunch of stitches, especially on the in-between parts. Yeah, that's where most of the stitches are. And the pelvic floor specialist is wanting me to, like, with all the massaging and everything down there, both of them are just wanting me to work on where the scarring is, like the inner and the outer. And like there's one of the techniques they mentioned is rolling, like with your fingers, like when you roll, that's one of them. Or when you grab and pull like this, or just like massaging in all the different ways. They were saying usually people who do those, when it's healed enough, a lot of people are happy with the results they have. And right now I notice as the swelling has gone down and there's less stitches, some of the where the scarring is discolored, and that's really the most of it that it's more noticeable is the color difference. But besides the asymmetry I have, I'm still happy. It's not structured male anymore, and it's female structure. So yeah. What else did they mention? I was okay to start doing my exercises again, like the exercises slash like was the stretches. Pelvic floor specialist added some. It was the stretches that was causing back pain. She added it back in. It was like Cobra. Yeah, it was that one was added back in. So, and she's saying that the butterfly, when you sit and do that stretch, she's saying that 5 minutes before you dilate, that can help open things up. And doing all these different stretches does help, because they want me to do the stretches, do the massaging. When I massage, I have to get things moving, like the skin, where the labias are, and the clitoris and hood. They want me to like move the hood back so I can clean around the clitoris and get all the things moving, because that will also help with dilating and with the scarring and the healing. So I've been doing that, and best advice I can give on that is when you're in the bath or shower would be the best time to do the massaging, because that warm water helps to loosen things up, and it just makes it much easier and less traumatizing, I can say, to doing so. Since my last video and now, I'm having less burning, less nerves, I can say. It was the electrical shocks and tingling and whatnot, all the different things that happen when the nerves reconnect, especially because there's more stitches that have dissolved or come detached, which when there's less stitches, I noticed there's less of that burning and whatnot. But I'm still having the nerves reconnecting, but it's less in between now. The worst I had was just dilating, and I felt it go through everything. Felt it vaginally is where I felt it, and it felt like it went up. It was weird. It was uncomfortable, but yeah, it's gonna take time, but it's still healing. And from others I've heard, even like 5 months after surgery, it still reconnects. My mom was saying take up to a year and nerves still reconnect. So yeah. And dilation, how that's going? Well, it's been Monday will be a week since I started using the blue dilator, and I started doing the green one. Then was it yesterday morning, I just wanted to see how far I could get the orange dilator. Well, what's happened was I successfully got the blue dilator all the way in. Then once I did that, I started doing the green one after a few times getting the blue one in. Then I would start doing the green dilator, which was kind of a struggle, but getting there. So I just started, instead of I slowly started switching to using the blue dilator first. And if I can't get it in, then I use the purple. But I noticed the purple just slips in right easily, all the way in. No issues. Then I go to the blue one. But this morning, I completely didn't use the purple and just used the blue dilator. Then that went in much easier than after I got to the dot, because my depth is at the first dot, and that's normal. 4 to 5 inches is the normal vaginal depth, and if you have more, that's good. But it is what it is, and that's how my body is, how they're able to get what they could. So I got the blue one in without the help of the purple. which was really nice. So when I got to the dot, I switched and did the green one until my 30 minutes was up. Then I decided to do the orange one and do a little bit extra with the orange. And I came about like this close of getting it all the way in. So yeah, things are progressing faster than what the doctors said it would. And this is what they said. I may not make it to the orange dilator, but because I know my body and myself and my goals, I want to get to the orange one. And the quicker you're able to get it to the orange, because when things are more healed, it can be a little bit more difficult, from what I've heard. So they just want me to dilate and move up dilators as comfortable when I'm comfortable doing so. So yeah. So I don't have to use the purple one anymore if things keep progressing like they are. Then hoping soon won't have to use the blue one, because when I'm not able to use the blue one anymore, this means I'm progressing further with things. So yeah, let's see what else has been happening. Well, with dilation, I noticed I'm still having the drainage, and the drainage starts out as like a red color, then as things heal it goes to like a brownish color, then it starts getting lighter and lighter in color and becomes kind of like yellow. Then after that it gets more and it starts to get lighter in color. And so right now it's still at that, it's not clear, but it's less yellow, but it's not 100% clear yet. So yeah. And I've also noticed I have a sore up in there. It's white. Kind of like if you think of a canker sore that's been broke open, then it's like a circle that's like whitish. Yes, it's kind of like that, but isn't. But yeah. And doctor was saying, she was saying that the slewing, all that, if you have too much, then they have to use silver nitrate on the inside of the vaginal canal, which I heard is painful, and it'll look like it's grayish in color for about a couple of days. So she wanted me to have an appointment with the urologist, but the appointment never showed up in the system or anything. So instead of me seeing her next time, because she wanted me to bring the dilators and whatnot, but instead of me seeing her next time, she's having me see the surgeon who did the surgery instead of her. So my appointment's been switched from the 5th to the 6th, and I have to see who I went to have the surgery. It was Dr. W.A. Goodwin. Yeah, it was Dr. Goodwin. So I have to see him. And yeah. So I'm not quite sure what's going to be happening at that appointment. So just everything that was discussed with the asymmetry and whatnot. And the silver nitrate. So yeah, because I still have that asymmetry, even though the swelling's gone down, I still have one spot that's really swollen on the clitoris hood on the left side, which is kind of uncomfortable. It's probably because there's still stitches there. It's part of it. And I've noticed doing the massages has caused orgasm because it's like close to the clitoris where I have to do some of the massages. So dilating has triggered orgasms. Massaging has triggered orgasms. And I've been having spontaneous orgasms. So it's pretty much almost every day so far. There's a few days where I didn't, but still, it's a little overwhelming having so much, but when it's not spontaneous, it feels better than when it is right now because how sensitive things are and it's not fully healed. And it's way different the way it feels now than before surgery. So yeah, it's mostly like feel it like the contractions vaginally and clitorally together and through the pelvic floor. And some are very light and some are really extremely strong. And it's those really strong ones with the contractions with the clitoris is where it's uncomfortable because it's still considered a wound and it's still swollen on part of the hood and stitches down there. Yeah. But I've noticed the clitoris is way more sensitive than before surgery, even though before surgery it was really sensitive. Now it feels like part of it's because it's still healing from surgery and the swelling significantly has gone down and it just feels way more sensitive than before. So yeah, and with dilating, I've hit the G-spot several times, like multiple times, which it's the same thing as the prostate is the same thing as the G-spot. So it's the same thing. So it's like, yeah, at the front of the vaginal canal. So, and the reason why I know I hit it is because when that spot's rubbed against or pressure against it, it gives you the feeling of you have to pee when you don't. So, yeah. And I can say vaginally, so far, from my experience, it feels better than having the G-spot stimulated anally. Mostly because it's like closer hit, like getting to it instead of like that distance. It's like before surgery, like anally, the distance from there and the G-spot, like the prostate area, and where it's positioned now, it's like feels like it's like more closer because there's less space in between with the vaginal canal being there now. So it feels better, I can say. And another interesting thing, I can't speak for anyone else, but my experience with all this with what I've talked about and whatnot. But this other thing with dilating is that drainage. I've noticed when I move up to the bigger dilator, then when it's time to take it out, when I take it out, I notice there's more drainage when I use the bigger dilator instead of like the smaller one. Because when I used the blue one, when I took it out, there wasn't really any drainage. Then I used the green one, didn't really feel any drainage. But when I took the orange one out, that's when I noticed I felt the drainage. It's like how I explained last time. It feels just more like liquid, kind of like a little bit of thicker liquid. But when the drainage did happen, and when it came out the vaginal canal and dripped down the perineum, even though it can be like kind of gross, for some reason I can't say 100% why I feel this way, but it feels good to me when there's that drainage and it just drips down. It just, I know the perineum is sensitive. It kind of feels a little more sensitive than before surgery, but when that drainage happens, it just feels good to me. Like that coming out of the vaginal canal, just dripping down. I don't know why, it just does. And I know some people like it, some people don't, in terms of like that sexual function when being cummed inside of, which I've never had that vaginally, but like when that dripping comes out, there's people that like it and people that don't, and I'm one that kind of likes it. It's just the way it feels. I know that's one thing I never expected would happen. I never even thought about that until it happened the first time. And this last time, this morning when it happened, I was just like, oh, it felt good when it came out, when it was warm and just dripped down the perineum. Yeah. And out of all the videos I've seen, no one's talked about stuff like this. So that's why I mention these things, even though some people might think it's like gross or like, why am I talking about it? It's because no one talks about these things. And that's why I'm doing these videos from my experience as a trans woman who's transitioned to where I'm at now and have surgery and everything, and what's actually happening and how I feel. Even the smallest little weird things like that. Because no one talks about these little things. Even though it's personal, I'd rather share it because it's things that actually happens with people who's had the surgery. And if you're planning on having the surgery, it may or may not with you. So, yeah. Other than that, I'm still very happy. I'm happy with my decision, who I went with to have the surgery. Even with the asymmetry, I'm happy with it. And at times, my emotions have still drop off. Even though my emotions drop off, I'm still happy. And pretty much since surgery, I haven't had dysphoria. Because there hasn't been dysphoria that's come up yet. Especially around the genitalia, there's like no dysphoria. I'm happy with it. Even if I don't have a revision done, I'd be happy with the way it is. But if I do have a revision done, because the right labia, minor, the inner labia, the right one, it goes from the clitoris all the way down to the perineum. But then the left one is where the asymmetry is. It goes from the clitoral hood, then it goes down to the vaginal entrance, like, and it goes down to the vaginal entrance, because that part from the vaginal entrance to the perineum, like the upper part of the vaginal entrance to the perineum, that's the part where when the swelling went down, that part went all the way down. So if I do have a revision, if they could match that side with the right side to lift that up, that would be what I'd want. Because I don't want the right side to be trimmed. I like the way it is. So, yeah. And one thing I've noticed, I've never heard people talking about, is when some of the stitches come out, that it sometimes, with my experience, I've had bleeding where the stitches have finally dissolved and come out. I have bleeding and kind of like pus, or like when the it's like kind of like pussy that fills into that little spot. That's kind of what's happened with me, because I've noticed some spots it looks like pus or kind of like acne, but that isn't acne. So some spots end up popping open and draining it. So yeah, which isn't fun, but is happening with me. It's not every single spot where the stitches have come out, but a few spots. Other than that, I've noticed one spot next to the left labia majora, when certain positions or pressure or when massaging, there's a spot that was stinging. My girlfriend was saying, because it's really hard to see by yourself down there, even with the mirror. She's saying it was like there was the stitches and the hair, like the stitch and the hair was coming out the same spot. So yeah, so I can't wait until stitches are and that spot is fully gone. But the stinging is getting better in that spot, so yeah. And notice next to the pubic bone, this spot right here. Yeah, it's right there at the left side. It's still having some, when enough pressure's put on it, there's pain on that side, but then the right side there isn't. So the pelvic floor specialist was saying in that spot to massage it, and the stretches I have to do will help with it. So just been working on that. trying to get everything to heal. And other than that, just healing. So, yeah. So until my next video, comment, rate, and subscribe, and boo.